Do you have a winning personality? Is that pretty much all you have going for you? Perhaps you always wanted to cast powerful spells or maybe even wield a sword using your personal charm and good looks. Are you interested in having tremendous power without even working for it? If so, you're in luck. I'm the Lost Prince of Fire, and I need your help. If you decide to help me, I will grant you powers beyond your wildest imagination. You will be able to crush your enemies and defy reason and gain influence throughout the world.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'd love to have all that power.
Excellent. So you agree?
I think so. How do I help you?
Oh yeah, I just have some things I'll need you to do, but you will get so much power.
That's amazing. I really feel like this could change my life.
It certainly will. I'll just need you to sign that contract you have right there.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So it says here that in exchange for power beyond my imagination, I will in turn bend my will to yours and forfeit any personal goals that I may have. That sounds just a bit steep.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that. My goals are so similar to yours. It'll be fine, trust me.
Seems legit. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jake from J&J Tabletop, and today we're talking about the Warlock. When we're talking about warlocks, we're talking about somebody that makes a deal with a powerful being in exchange for power. In case you didn't get it from the intro, that's how it works. So when I think of an example of a warlock, I think someone like, say, Ghost Rider is a really good example, who makes a deal with Mephisto, or the devil, in exchange for the life of his father. Now, that deal also turned him into like a flaming, bike-riding skeleton guy who would go around and, do really cool stuff. I think you could also look at the character Melisandre from Game of Thrones. You could also probably look at her as a cleric. Sometimes there's a little bit of overlap there, but her patron in this example would be the Lord of Light, who is kind of like fiery, kind of weird and ironically dark, even though they're light, at least in the way Melisandre seems to have her relationship with him. And she does like cool fire stuff throughout the show, and won't say who, but even is able to raise somebody from the dead. So that's definitely a good example of a warlock as well. My favorite example of a warlock today, though, would be the Silver Surfer, whose patron would be Galactus, the Eater of Worlds. Now, Galactus, in order to survive, has to consume energy from a planet, and if there is life on the planet, it's a much more satisfying meal. So he shows up to the Silver Surfer's homeworld and is getting ready to do his thing when the Silver Surfer says, "If you spare my world, I will serve you." Galactus agrees, gives him some power, and says, "Okay, your job now is to go find me other worlds that I could eat because I'm hungry." Silver Surfer agrees, and now he's off doing his thing, trying to find different worlds that, isn't that satisfying because he's trying to save lives. So in that example, you actually see where the warlock and the patron, their goals might not fully line up, whereas, say, Melisandre and the Lord of Light, they're in sync. She's just trying to do anything that he says. Now, I think if you really work with your DM, you could tell some very fun stories, and you could have some unique relationship points between your warlock and their patron. Now, when I think about what makes a warlock kind of special and unique is a few different things. First off, they're charismatic, and from the intro, we're kind of poking fun at them a little bit, but they basically they channel their magic through their charisma, which also represents kind of like your strength of will in Dungeons and Dragons. So they also tend to be natural leaders in that way, and they're also often found doing quite a bit of the talking. They're also beholden to what their patron says. Now, depending on the storytelling elements and how you want to go about things with your DM, this could be a very special relationship where they're like close, maybe they're friends, maybe the patron or warlock is just simply using the other as best they can to just achieve their own goals, and they don't really care about the other one whatsoever. There's a lot of different ways you could go with that, So if you're working with your DM, you're gonna have I think you could have a ton of fun telling some unique stories. And last but not least, Warlocks, when it comes to D&D, they're just kind of weird. And what I mean by that is they don't have like their regular spell casting as like, you know, a wizard or a cleric or druid would. They do get spell slots, but they don't get as many of them. But they recharge in a short rest instead of a long rest. Everything about them is just kind of strange. They even have things called Eldritch Invocations, which let them kind of break a lot of just standard rules by casting things like first level spells like at will without using a spell slot, or you know, being able to see in even magical darkness. So Warlocks, they're a very unique class, but they are often pretty reliable damage dealers with their Eldritch Blast cantrip. If you take the Agonizing Blast, Eldritch Invocation, you're going to be a very reliable damage dealer, and you're going to be able to do it from a distance, which that is always good in a group. So yeah, Warlocks are kind of strange. The Warlock subclass is actually their patron, and you get to choose that right away at level 1. And the player's handbook offers 3 options. You could pick an Archfey, which is like a powerful Fey being. And so, you know, you tend to have some extra nature-based, Fey, kind of whimsical, wispy kind of abilities, which can lend itself to a lot of very tricky and, you know, very interesting and manipulative ways of playing. You also could pick the Fiend, which was kind of the flavor we were going for in the intro. Shout out to Josh, who did a ridiculously awesome job on that, which kind of gives this like devilish, fire-based and dark kind of a theme to your Warlock, and kind of that like tortured, brooding soul. Probably a little bit more of a kind of like an on the nose. Like when you first think of a Warlock, I tend to think their patron is kind of like a Fiend. But they also offer the Great Old One, which kind of throws itself to, like, say, the Cthulhu. Cthulhu? I don't know if I say that right. Anyways, but it's kind of like alien, mental, kind of strange and dark. I kind of picture someone like Orin from Parks of Rec. If he was a Warlock, I feel like he would be a Great Old One Warlock who just sits in the corner and stares at people. But you actually, the Great Old One, actually, you could do telepathy within 30 feet, so you don't even need to speak, and you can communicate with anybody, regardless of the language that you know or they know. So that's actually pretty useful. Warlocks almost have like 2 subclasses in a way, which can make for a lot of different combinations. And at level 3, you get to pick like a pact feature. Now, that's sort of just a special way you interact with your patron, like a little extra way that they kind of give you power, like a blessing, a boon, if you will. And the player's handbook offers 3 options. You have the Pact of the Blade, the Pact of the Chain, and the Pact of the Tome. Now, the Pact of the Blade will let you summon a pact weapon out of thin air, and you can also send it back to its extra dimensional space, and you're pretty much never unarmed, and just adds like a martial quality. So if you're on the front lines, you'll be able to, you know, still fight effectively. The Pact of the Chain gives you a way that you can enhance your familiar options. So if you're not familiar with a familiar, what that is, it's kind of like a special pet that you can see through their eyes and hear through their ears. And they have special options that can go invisible, offer you protections against magic just for being near you. There's a lot of really interesting ways you could have, you know, kind of that extra edge with so many things. Probably a very underrated way to go. And then the Pact of the Tome lets you get what's called a grimoire, or like your Book of Shadows, and you gain more magic options. You can do ritual casting, you get extra cantrips from any spell list, and there's certain Eldritch invocations that are associated with whatever pact you choose. So it kind of just gives another flavor for the way you can roleplay your Warlock. When it comes to building your Warlock, go ahead and make your highest score your Charisma, because that's where all of your magic is going to be based off of. Next, I would go with Constitution, so you have more health and you're better at concentration checks. And then last but not least, I would go with Dexterity, because having a high armor class is always a good thing. And if you're kind of stuck and you don't know what race to play, I'd like to suggest the Tiefling or Dragonborn. So that's going to be it for our intro to the Warlock in Dungeons & Dragons. If you liked it, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about playing a warlock, or maybe you have some fun ideas for a warlock or their patron or anything in between, or maybe you even just want to say hi, please go ahead down to the comment section and feel free to do so. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you're notified when we make a video. We also have a Twitch channel located at twitch.tv/JNJ Tabletop, where we do our live Dragon of Icespire Peak gameplay, as well as occasionally we do our Friday night fights where Josh and I make a character and we fight each other. So definitely a good time. Make sure you go and follow us over there as well. We're also going to have links to our social media accounts, as well as any other helpful resources that we can think of, in the description below. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. And remember, if anyone offers you a contract, make sure you kind of read the fine print and you're okay with that deal. Because even if you are getting some power, you might have to bend your will to some weird, strange, powerful entity that doesn't actually have your best interest at heart. All right, take care, everybody.